All right. Good morning. Happy New Year. So we are here at the beginning of 2024. Wow. What a deal. And the beginning of every year, there's all this talk and discussion about what happened for me last year and what would I like to have happen for me this year. So yoga has a ton of philosophy on sustainable change, sustainable transformation. How do you create a life that is supportive of you and your best self, your best life, etc.? How do you do that? So, what I want to do today is to discuss some of those ideas, present some of those things, and then we'll have a short practice at the end. We're going to be about 1 hour, just about 1 hour, maybe slightly more. And then, um, if there are questions or comments, etc., we can take them at the end like that. Um, Actually, for those of you who know me, I prefer my questions as we go. So as things are happening, if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll take them. Or if you have comments, etc., like that. So we'll start with a little bit of chanting. And the chanting is to acknowledge that we are the recipients of a really in-depth and broad and amazing tradition. And we're honoring those who came before us to create it and to maintain it and to pass it down and to really acknowledge that we also have a debt in doing that. All right, so we'll do a little bit of chanting and then we'll start with the ideas. Shri Krishna Vagishayathishvarabhyam Samprapta Chakrankarna Bhashasaram Shri Nuit Narengendra Yatau Samarpitasvam Shri Krishna Maryam Guru Vargyamite विरोधे कार्तिके मासे शतताराकृतोदयम् योगाचार्यं कृष्णमार्यं गुरुवर्यमहं भजे कृष्णसूरिदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणम् श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्देऽहं योगदेशिकम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. All right. So, uh, from a yoga perspective, who you are is an intersection between all the potentialities that you were born with and your experiences and how that happens through time. So, let's say you take an apple. An apple can become apple sauce. It can become apple juice. It can become apple cider. It can become a baked apple. It can become a rotten apple. Don't let any rotten apples into your life, by the way. And then it can also become an apple tree. It can become apple firewood. I mean, there's a little bit more step to that. You have to grow the tree first, and you cut down the tree, and then you make then you burn it, or it could become an apple table, right? So there's all these potentialities in an apple. What is going to determine what it becomes? And essentially, what determines what it becomes is the experiences it has. If it gets put behind the wastebasket and left for a couple months, it will be a rotten apple. If it gets planted at the right time in the right conditions, it'll become an apple tree. That tree can be a whole bunch of different things, right? Furniture, wood, firewood, more apples, blah, blah, blah. If it gets squeezed, it becomes apple juice. If that juice is then fermented, you have apple cider, right? So you have an apple, and what the apple will become is dependent upon the experiences that that apple has. Then you think about yourself. You too are an apple, not just the apple of your mother's eye. La, la, la. You too are an apple, right? So, what that means is you have many different potentialities. You have many different manifestations. So, which ones develop? Which ones become manifest? Well, that too is based on your experiences, right? So, what that means is we all uh, are in the process of transforming. So rather than thinking of a person as a kind of set something, like this is who I am, or this is what my my being is, etc. Um, we all know people like that. Like you get in an argument with a family member, and at some point they just come down to like, well, that's who I am, and that's it, and that's the bottom line, and that's actually not true. But okay, that's where they are. So, um, think of us as like a kind of fire, right? You have to keep putting wood on the fire to keep the fire burning. I mean, we all eat every day. We all are taking in liquid, etc. If we don't do that, we'll be dead. So, and very literally, there is a digestive fire in our system. But when you put wood on, the kind of wood that you put on the fire determines how the fire develops. So if you put very wet wood on the fire, then it dies down a little bit. You get a lot of smoke. If you put very dry, small wood on the fire, then immediately the fire springs up and you have a lot of flame, etc. But you don't have a lot of longevity. It burns through quite quickly, etc. Right? So if you think of yourself, or if you think of a person, your child, etc., as something whose functioning can change based on the experiences that they have, then what you start to see is the key for influencing the kinds of changes that you would like in your system and for maintaining them. for those of you who don't know me very well, my wife and I adopted a little child from Taiwan. We have a little daughter, and you know, when you do something, when you adopt, they make you do all kinds of uh, classes, parenting classes, and you know, trauma classes, and childhood development classes, and blah blah blah. I am, you know, somewhat of a childhood development expert now. Actually, as soon as you say that, you know that you're totally lost. But anyway, I'm required to do all of these classes, and you know, one of the main ideas in this in this in adoption is that the transferring of this person from one environment into another is easily very traumatic. And what are the things that you can do to help ease that? You know, and there is very explicitly the idea in these circles that um, trust is simply the experience of your needs being met regularly. I should say, your needs being met in a timely manner regularly. So if you are, say, in a in orphanage, or if you're somewhere where you have a need and you cry and it doesn't get met until later, then that's traumatic. If you're hungry and you don't get food, then you know, etc. And if you develop those experiences over time, then there will be a certain expectation and an outlook as to the way that the world is treating you based on your experiences. So the thing that they hammer home for all adoptive parents is meet the needs, meet the needs, meet the needs, meet the needs, meet the needs in a timely manner. And a lot of times meeting the needs just means just be there and be a presence, you know, not necessarily have to figure out what does this child need at this time, but just actually just being there and being present and holding, etc. And that over time, each time that that happens, there's another little layer, and then there's another little layer, and then there's another little layer. And over time, what develops is trust. And then what develops from that is the belief that my needs will get met. And what is that based on? That's based on experience. So I have to say that, you know, watching all these videos and etc. has been is I just reminded of yoga all the time, because yoga is saying the same thing. Yoga is saying the experiences that you have leave a residue. And if you continue to have the same experience and the same experience and the same experience, that will develop into a strong pattern. And then we get some ways down the road and we go, I don't want that pattern no more. I want to change my pattern. Not so easy, because I have layers and layers and layers and layers of experience that has resulted in that behavior. Right? So yoga's yoga's methodologies for transformation are experiential. Understanding the ideas are very important, because they help you know what you're doing, etc. But there is no substitute for having the experience. If you have the experience, that is the kind of currency that your system can retain. Simply understanding doesn't have the same weight. It doesn't have the same influence on your system, right? Okay, so we'll do just a quick review and then we'll go on to the next ideas. And then I'll do a quick review. We'll take a comment or question and then we'll go on to the next ideas. So you are born with a tremendous amount of potentiality. You can become so many different manifestations. This is on a physical level, this is on a mental level, this is on emotional, behavioral. You can be so many things. How you are those things or what things actually develop depends upon your experiences. The experiences that you have will leave a little residue. That residue will accumulate over time into your habits, into your patterns. And then those patterns establish expectations about what the world is going to be, etc. So what happens is we had these experiences, they created the patterns. The patterns are now projecting onto the world, and that's what we're experiencing. So then what happens is we are like a fire that is continually evolving to be the same fire. I wake up in the same place every morning with the same person, right? Then I I go down or up or over to the same room and I have the same food or some version of the same food. And then I leave the house and I go to the same place that I go 5 days a week for all day. And I have the same joys and headaches. And then, right? So, like, I have the same set of experiences and I show up in those with some patterns, kind of already knowing what's going to happen, already experiencing, and then it lays down more, it lays down uh more residue, and I build and I've just become more and more of the curmudgeon that I am. Or more and more of the fill in the blank that I am. Okay. This is on a theoretical level, right? Of course, nothing is 100% perfect, and of course, nothing is going to be 100% accurate, etc. But it's giving you a way of thinking about, well, how did I get here, and who am I, right? How did I get here, and who am I? Okay. Are there comments or questions? Mary, you have a comment?
Hey, Chase.
Good morning.
Good morning. Um, yeah, I mean, of course, it's a beautiful way of looking at. Uh, I really loved your talking about trust and what that entails. And one other thought that I had is not just what you were saying about thinking about how you know we become who we are, but also the idea of like what residues do I want to have.
Yeah.
know so I'm kind of taking it obviously a little bit forward and thinking about thinking about the residues that my experiences are going to leave, the impression they're going to leave on me and what's going to build up over time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that can be, if you're mindful about your choices, that can be a really great way to look at, like, oh, am I going to have that,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes. That's
What kind of
exactly.
residue is it going to leave?
Yeah. What kind of residue is it going to leave? That's such a wonderful question.
Yeah.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Super. Thank you very much.
mm,
Carly,
I agree with that completely. And one thing that I've been learning is that it, you know, we have this idea that, what others think is none of our business and that sort of thing, which may be true, but whatever residue I leave on others seems to impact me as well. So it's not just the residue that I leave behind inside me, but it's also the residue I leave behind in the world because it seems to be equally balanced. Whatever I leave behind with others comes back to me.
wonderful. Yeah, there is a boomerang here. That saying by Mahatma Gandhi, who was a yogi, be the change that you want to see in the world, right? Some, it has some real validity. By doing, then it comes back and is in you. You know, um, just to follow this a little bit more, um, from a yoga perspective, the piece that is what lays down is the actual experience. So when I'm doing something, I'm having an experience. So yoga's ethical ideas are related to this. It's ethics for the benefit of yourself and others. Be Have integrity, be kind, etc. Why? Because it helps you. It it changes your state. And of course, it changes the other person and it's helpful and nice and we all it's contributing to a positive environment for all beings, etc. But by doing that, you're leaving residue in you. And that is powerful. Okay, great comments. Thank you both. So, what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Right? Because this set, who I am who I am is the intersection between my experiences and my potentialities. And that is, it has some momentum carrying forward. Every day I'm becoming a new person, except that I live in the same place and I go to work in the same place and I interact with all the same people all the time. And I watch I watch the same media or I engage with the same ideas. And so I continually transform into the person that I already was. And I'm continually, I'm having an evolution that's just keeping going the manifestations that are already up, right? Hi, want to sit in my lap?
I don't know where mommy is.
Oh, mommy's? Okay. So, what yoga?
Mommy is.
It's okay, sweetie. So, what yoga has to say is that you want to be a different person, you have to start having some different experiences. Now, yoga is not advocating that you blow up your life and move to Miami, okay? Yoga location moves don't work because you eliminate all of your support and then you go somewhere else and then you're still the same person that you were back there, but without all the support. No job, no friends, blah, 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 blah. No partner, no, etc. So location moves don't work. So how do I start to have different experiences within the life that I have now? Okay. And yoga's way of thinking about this is, all right, who I am is the intersection between my potentialities and my experiences. My experiences are the intersection between the environment and the situation and my own mental state and patterns. So, in other words, the mood I'm in, the patterns I have developed over days and years and decades, those things color the events that are happening. I go home, I'm at home, and over dinner, my daughter spills her drink. How do I respond? Depends a lot on my mood and my uh, recent experiences. If I've had a really difficult day and my mood is really sour, then I am likely to respond in a way that is sour. And my poor child gets intersected with all the experiences that I have had earlier in the day that have made me sour, right? Or if I have had a bunch of experiences that have elevated me and made me feel expansive and calm, etc. When there's a spilling of the drink, what happens is, it's no big deal. Don't worry. We'll get you another drink. And, every day doing this is not a great pattern. So let's work on having a different pattern. Right? So my responses are so different. So here's a real key to how yoga views sustainable transformation. It's saying that your state is a big key to having to changing your reality, right? Your state is a big key to changing your reality. It's not just that you live in the same place and you go to all the same places, you interact with all the same people and you're screwed. That's not it. You can do things to make yourself feel better. You can do things to support your state. And as you support your state, how you show up will be so different. We my wife and I and daughter bought a project, a real project, a year and a half ago. Well, not quite, year and a quarter ago. And, it's so funny to watch all of our moods change as various pieces of our house get cleaned up. The most recent one, we got a stereo. Yeah, I'm like, I know this, but I'm flabbergasted by what a difference music makes. So we're cooking. We have a little bit of music going on. All of our moods are elevated. It's stunning. It's stunning. We have this hallway slash closet that a bunch of stuff basically it got filled. And in order to go from one room into another, you have to sort of wiggle your way through this like these narrow openings of boxes, etc. Last the last 2 weeks, we cleaned that out. Wow, it's so open. It feels so light. I mean, I noticed that all of our actual countenance has changed. Like our mood has changed. So what yoga's key here is your mood is also connected to, it's not a direct connection, it's not a cause effect, but it is influenced a lot by your experiences. And if you start thinking about your experiences and as things that if you start thinking about your experiences as things that influence you and and then you can start to choose things. So on a basic level, so for instance, maybe your commute is really a downer. Well, there's so much work at home stuff these days. Maybe you could work at home 1 or 3 or 5 days a week. And all it involves is actually a conversation with the boss. Or maybe, maybe maybe like this obligation that I have to go to lunch with my Aunt Mildred every Thursday. God, I just noticed that like Thursday evening, I'm a bear to be around. All right, so maybe I'm gonna only do it every other week. Or maybe I'm gonna move it until you know, some other day of the week and time when I can get some other people involved and I can actually have some fun. So I'm gonna get my cousin involved, and she's gonna come over, and we're gonna have. And Aunt Mildred is my cousin gonna pick up Aunt Mildred, and Aunt Mildred is gonna come to my house and listen to my music while I cook. And we're gonna do it, every third week instead of every week, something like that. So the point is that yoga gives us a way of thinking about our experiences and how they are influencing of us, right? And uh, of course, as we all know, yoga has wonderful ways of giving the body, breath, attention, mind, emotions, specific experiences that can change the quality of it. So this is asana, pranayama, dhyana, meditation, chanting, ritual, diet, lifestyle. If you go to bed at 8 p.m. and you go to bed at midnight and you get 12 hours, you get 8 hours of sleep. Those are not the same 8 hours of sleep. Colleague can tell you that. Those are not the same hours of sleep, right? Actually, the most important hours of sleep are between 8 and 12 p.m. And if you go to sleep at midnight, then you have missed the most important hours of sleep. Now, how do you get to bed earlier? Blah, blah, blah. All those things are it's a question of developing pattern. So, yoga has wonderful ways of developing experiences in your body called asana, called pranayama, of developing experiences in your mind called meditation, of developing experiences in your emotions. All these practices change how you feel. So if you spend some time during the day moving, breathing, being attentive, etc., the result will be that your system changes. And as your system changes, actually the whole world changes. Because reality is not simply reality. Reality is what's happening at the intersection of your lens, your mind, which is your mood and your the history of your experiences, your patterning, right? So then what is what is it that it's not just do some yoga. There are a whole series of principles about what kind of physical sensations are more useful than others. So there's a whole set of describing what does balance, what does um, um, you know, optimal performance of your physical system look like. And then we have a different set of principles for your energetic system, your breathing, your physiology. There are some markers. What is moving in a positive direction? What is moving in a negative direction? Same thing for your mind, your behavior, emotions. So we can then, using the principles of yoga, start to develop experiences that bring those qualities into your system. So yoga is a science of experiences. It's a system for intentionally generating experiences in your system on the level of body, breath, mind, behavior, emotions. And that as we do that, it leaves a little bit of residue. This is the thing that gets me about the um, New Year's resolution stuff. It's all quick fixes. Quick fixes do not effing work. Quick fixes, if your corner is too sharp, then you go right back around the corner. You can maintain it for a little while. Discipline, self-discipline, will are beginner's games. In other words, you can try to force yourself to do something, and it will be successful for some short period of time, but it's never going to work long term. What has to happen is that we have to understand what are the needs that my current behaviors are fulfilling. Does this annoying behavior, does Chase being late 3 minutes to every class, what is the function of that? What is the function of that? And I won't bear my whole awful soul to you, but there is some functioning there, right? There is some functioning there. Um, or why is it that why is it that somebody chooses emotionally unavailable partners? Or why is it that they overeat? Or why is it that, the point is that behavior is functional. Behavior is functional. It's not random. In the Bossart household, there's a thing about stress eating. And you can see the level of stress at the dinner table by how fast people are shoveling the food into their mouth. Now, of course, I have already overcome all the. Okay, so the point is that behavior is functional. Don't try to simply shut down the behavior. It's like cold turkey, force of will, self-discipline. Those things are beginners' tactics. They work for a short period of time. But unless we have understood what is the mechanism that behavior is serving us and replace it with a different mechanism, it won't be a long-term success. This is why you see people when they quit smoking, they gain a lot of weight. Why? Well, because they have switched the functionality of the cigarette to food, right? So, what does yoga give us? Yoga gives us a way of identifying the needs and then intentionally satisfying those needs in another way through breathing, movement, meditation, sound, chanting. You know, there's also a whole series of one-off events which we could loosely label as rituals that help us to digest or let go of a particular event. Like, my relatives passing, knock on wood, or my, um, or my, the dissolution of an important relationship, knock on wood, etc. Right? There's things that we can do to help us digest that, etc., for a short period of time. So, this is what yoga is. Yoga is a science of experience. Yoga is understanding that the person is a is in ongoing transformation and development, and that we will continue to evolve into either the same people we were before or new people, depending upon what is our um, experiences. And then we can start to look and be like, well, the experiences I'm having make me feel how? And what could I do to change how that's helping me, how that's making me feel? And then we can take it a step further and we can be like, okay, every day I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And what that does is helps us to see and feel differently. And if we're feeling differently, we're going to see what's happening in our life differently. And then a different residue will get laid down. And then slowly we become a different person. Okay. This is the general idea. Um, are there thoughts or questions or comments? Yeah, Rolf.
Yeah, you're saying that discipline or willpower is sort of a beginner's game, but you're not saying that it doesn't have a role in
Correct.
change, are you?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, you need to do something to
Correct.
jumpstart the process.
Correct.
Yeah, you're saying.
Yeah, but
And
let me just say that, um, we got to choose things that we actually can do. People, I can't tell you how often people come to see me for a yoga practice and they're like, I'm going to make a new thing in my life and I'm going to carve out an hour every day for yoga. I'm like, all right, well, how much yoga are you doing already? None. It's like, you're not going to carve out an hour every day. It's not going to happen. Right. So let's start with 15 minutes, or let's start with go for a walk and come back and do this breathing and this reflection. And then, and then from there, you have to slowly develop momentum. So you have to have some discipline to do something, but it can't be too oppositionally opposed to what you have been doing before.
And then I guess I'm gathering that what you're saying is the motivation results from your awareness of changes that begin to happen to your system. And that sort of that interests me most, how to develop that awareness and come in touch or get in touch with the change of how your system feels.
Yes. all of us are going to forget what we felt like before. You know, I used to laugh when I go see Mr. Deshakachar because I would be like, I would have my list of stuff that I wanted to work on, and et cetera. And I sit down and politely wait, and then to, ounce and tell him all the stuff that I wanted to change it. And he would inevitably ask me about, like, so what happened with that neck pain? And I would be like, haven't had it in months. But I completely forgot about it. And I completely forgot about it. I hadn't, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, and how's that issue with, your brother about? And be like, well, we don't, what it's transformed into blah 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 blah. And what happens is, and I see this in my own students, is that there's so much change going on and people don't record it. So they don't see it. So it's actually it's the role of one of the roles of a teacher to actually come back and say, see, good. So that's part of it. A second part of it is, I mean, you can do things like go back into your notes and in your in notes with in classes and whatnot, or your own journal. If you keep a journal, it's great to go back and reread, because you see the things that you were struggling with, and how you felt and what was going on and those kinds of things. But if you don't keep a journal, even if you go and see somebody, if you get a new practice, turn it over on the back and be like, my issues, or, what I'm working on, how I feel, and just do a bullet list of it, something like that. Is this helpful? Basically,
Yeah, I
what I'm
mean,
saying
I
is,
think so. I mean, it's just like you said, people aren't always aware of the change that's occurring unless it's pointed out to them.
yeah,
And it's that sort of zooming in or getting in touch with the awareness of those changes that is hard sometimes.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is hard. Yeah, there's no doubt. And sustainable change is mostly, not all the time, but mostly gradual. And it's, that gradualness of it makes us forget, because we don't see the, I was looking at, my daughter has been with us for 2 years. And I was, how photos come up on your phone. Saw these photos of her in July. She's tiny compared to right now. She's grown a bunch in just 6 months. And, I'm just like, wow, she's so big now compared to then. I was not thinking that before the photos came up. You know, just it just slowly changes over time. She's just who she is until I see the photos and I'm like, oh yeah, like that. Thank you, Rolf. Thank you. Suna, am I pronouncing your name correct? Hold on. Can't hear you. There we go.
Guys, now, it's Sana, but I don't even pronounce it the way my mother pronounces it. So I answer to all. Thank you, Chase. I just want to share that yoga, it's just amazing. I was doing a yoga practice and I had my eyes open. I saw my husband and it was in the morning and I noticed my daughter didn't wake up. And I told my husband, make sure you wake up Lila, right? And then she goes into a panic attack. I'd already been in like 10 minutes of my deep breathing. And I said, oh, I need to interrupt it. And I walk over and usually my response, my pre-yoga response is anger, frustration, and annoyance. Mostly annoyance, right? But I remember waking up in the morning before this whole event and thinking, I don't want to do my yoga. Oh, I gotta get up. Oh, I don't want to get out of bed. But there was like this clarity of just do it, just get it started. And I'm glad I listened to it Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have set that mood, that transformation, that, I walked into her bedroom, I was calm. I'm like, hey, baby girl, what's going on? It was a panic attack, full on panic attack, hyperventilation. And I said, do you need a hug? And I said, well, do your best. And I'm going to go back to my yoga. And I went back to my yoga, and this was the message that came out. See your daughter. She's just like you. You've tried to fix her the way you wanted to. But now let me take care of it this time. Let me in and let me help you this time. And I said, and I was, I was so grateful this bump on the road, because that's what meditation has done for me. It's given me a ability to step back from my emotions and to look at it and say, what's the real problem? What's really going on? Is this really me? Or is it just gives me a different perspective. So thanks for letting me share. And I'm so glad to join.
It's such a nice comment. So good. It's so perfect. Yeah. Yeah, because so much of the stuff we can only influence by how we participate in it. And it's so nice to show up as our as our calm and loving and caring self rather than all those other things we have potential for. Thank you. Fantastic. Christian.
Yeah, hi. So you had mentioned that you talked about that there are sort of markers for moving in a positive or a negative direction, both sort of physically as well as mentally, spiritually. And I've found that sometimes, I mean, change often has a lot of unpleasant aspects to it. So like you can start changing things, and it seems like sort of the markers or the responses are often like a negative feeling, right? So let's say you wanted to go talk to your boss about working remotely. There's a lot of anxiety potentially about that. There's fear. Could I get fired just for asking, right? So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of like what the markers are, because it seems like a lot of markers to go in a good direction. To get there, there's a lot of sort of negative, what I perceive anyway, as negative markers to get in that direction.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic question. It needs more time than what we have today. So let me just give you a short answer to it. So um the fundamental idea is what voice are we listening to? What voice are we listening to? And yoga, its its main thrust is about getting better at discerning the voice we're listening to. So when we, especially at the beginning of changing a pattern, when we work on zagging instead of zigging, or etc., what happens is the old pattern gets kicked up. And the old pattern has functionality, right? So I'm not going to talk to my boss because I want to keep my job. And whatever the deal is, right? So the pattern there is like which we learned from previous experiences where we said something and then there was a negative response, etc. So by by working on our state, it opens the possibility that we will have better differentiation as to, is this voice my small, quiet voice that's really telling me now's not the time to ask your boss? Or is this voice my pattern, which is screaming and yelling, whoa, 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 wait, don't, right? So So the short answer is discernment is dependent, not dependent, is greatly supported by a stable presence, a stable attention. And that stable attention and presence is greatly supported by balance and by, and those markers that help us to achieve that or to let that balance develop in us, etc. That those things give us the sense of like, okay, I can see that today I'm having a pretty good day and I feel pretty quiet and I feel pretty good. And so I think that the voice I'm listening to is, whatever it is that we think that we're listening to. So in it's not like so straightforward as to like, well, develop long, smooth breathing, and then you have a sense of calm. And if you don't have a sense of calm, then don't do that thing, because like we have to actually discern, is that lack of sense of calm from my patterning, or is it really from that deeper voice that is really my essential me? Like Suna was saying about, she's hearing a voice in her practice. Like that has a special quality. Is there a follow-up?
No, that was awesome. Thanks.
It's a great question. Really good question. Bud, you had your hand raised, but took it down.
Well, yeah, I didn't. It's not terribly important, but I would like to share. Thank you so much for reminding me of my practice and what works, and that willpower is bullshit. And I teach that and I practice that because it's not where change comes from. It comes when we're just ready to release it. And I did the opposite about a month ago, and now I need to retract because it wasn't working and it was willpower. And, we can affect other people negatively when we do these things. And so we go back and say, let's try this again. That wasn't what my teaching has taught me. So anyway, thank you so much.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for the share. All experiences have purpose. There are no mistakes. Thank you. Mary?
Well, I just was reminded way back when Rolf was talking about the idea of willpower, and all through the Christian commenting and Bud and Suna, thinking about this idea of really having the courage to sort of understand where the pattern is coming from and how critical that is in terms of sustaining your change. And I just had this little super quick story, and that's that for the longest time, every single time I would go to do my job, which is to teach, I would have a little voice inside my head that would say, you don't want to go. I don't want to do this. And it's just silly because I did want to do it and I love doing it. And every single time I do it, I get so much out of it. And so I was like, and I would just be like, for the longest time, I was just like, shut up. I don't even know what's going on here with you, but what that voice is, I'm just going to ignore you. But it persisted. And recognizing that voice is not I could discern through my, practices of yoga that voice was not the one true voice, that I should be listening to. But I was sort of just ignoring it. I was just sort of just saying, be quiet. I don't need you, And it wasn't until I decided to say, okay, what are you trying to do? Like, what's your purpose? And I was able to, sort of do a little bit of self-reflection about that for a while and recognize and understand that was coming from wanting to keep me safe because I have social anxiety. So, and that still comes up for me in all sorts of settings, and apparently also when I teach, in front of a bunch of people. So then I started saying thank you. Like, I understand why you're saying what you're saying, and thank you so much, but we've got this. Like, it's okay. I get where you're coming from. And, you know, like, it doesn't come up. she, she was able to be heard and thanked, and her job is done, and
Yeah.
she doesn't
Such a
have to say
nice,
that anymore.
such a nice story. So
So
good. So good. Yeah. And the it really is I mean your point about the development of it over time and seeing it and understanding what its function was, etc. Yeah.
critical, because otherwise it's just gonna
Yeah.
it's I don't think the change can occur unless you're willing to do that.
Yeah. So, we're a bit past time, so here's my proposal. Let me just say a couple more things and then Carly will have your share. And for those who would like to stay for a practice, we'll just do a 15-minute practice, something like. So if you have time and you want to stay until the hour, then that would be great. But if you need to go, then of course you can go. But let me just say before we take Carly's share that this sustainable change is at the core of Vini Yoga and yoga as a path, as a life, as something that we implement with intention and skill and understanding over a long period of time. And at the Yoga Well Institute, all of our offerings are organized around these principles of sustainable transformation, and that takes time. Um, and we are beginning at the end of this month, on the 23rd of January, we're going to beginning our next practitioner training, which is Deepen Your Yoga. And that is very explicitly a 15-month program to help implement yoga's principles and practices into your life with the goal of helping you to see what is it that I'm doing already and what is the function of that, and substituting some different things and getting those new practices established and working in your life so that we can start to get the transformation, etc. So if anybody's interested in that, please email the well at yogawell.com. We have course information, and we also have a student advisor, Meg Bratt. If you want to email Meg at yogawell.com, that's also a good way to talk to somebody about what is the program entail and whatnot. And uh, please join it. If you're interested, please join us. Thank you. So we'll get Carly share, and then we'll do a practice and we'll conclude. Carly.
Okay, so first I just want to piggyback on that I did the last Deepen Your Yoga program, and I give it 6 out of 5 stars. So it was a big change and transformation for me. And let me explain why. So today was the first day I was able to put together that willpower is all the kleshas. And so for me to be able to circle it back around to Patanjali's text of ignorant, this avidya, asmita, raga, devesha, and the one I can never say, abhinavesha.
Abhinavesha, yes.
Abhinavesha. Like that is the essential operation of willpower. All of those things, they all take a part in willpower. And for the first time, because I've always struggled with, I'm gonna do it. I'm good. It's up to me. It's there's this strong thing, but that's just ignorance, ego, separateness, attachment, aversion, and the idea that I'm a god. So Anyway, I just wanted to show the teacher that I learned something.
Well
Thank you.
done, Carly. Yeah, Carly was a star participant in our last Deepen Your Yoga program. Your shares were really awesome, and you really did a lot of work. Thank you, Carly. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chase.
Okay, so let me have you be let's stand up since we've been seated for an hour. So let's stand up. All right, so using Ujjayi, so as you inhale, take the arms out to the sides and straight up above the head. Pause after your inhale. Just 2 counts. Exhale, lower the arms down to the sides. Pause after exhale, 2 counts. Try to coordinate the movement of the breath with the movement of the arms, or actually the other way around, movement of the arms to the movement of the breath. So as you're inhaling, arms will be raising. As you finish the inhale, they come above your head. Pause after inhale. Count of 2. Exhale, lower the arms. Pause after exhale. Count of 2. Hmm. One more like this. And then inhale, take the arms from the front. Pause now. After count of 3 after inhale. As you exhale, bend forward, swing the arms to the sides behind the back, grab the wrist, let the wrist just rest on the lower back. Pause after exhale. 3, maybe 4. Inhale, come back up, arms out to the sides and up. Pause after inhale, 3 or 4. Exhale, go back down. Pause after exhale, 3 or 4. One more like this. When you're finished, take a comfortable seated position. Eyes closed. So let something you'd like to change about yourself come to mind. So let it arise. Let something that you like to change about yourself arise. So inhale through one nostril, exhale through the other, and then go back the other direction. So inhale left, exhale right. Inhale right, exhale left. Pause after each breath, 4 or 5. So inhale, big inhale, fill the chest, then pause after inhale, 4 or 5. Exhale, pause after exhale, long exhale, slow exhale, pause after exhale, 4 or 5. If that pause is too long, is not comfortable, then make it shorter. Last breath like this. So finish this breath. Keep the eyes closed. Ask that thing you'd like to change about yourself what its function is. Ask it, how are you serving me? How are you helping me? And then ask it, what can I do instead? Try not to answer it. Try to let it answer you. What can I do instead? You're welcome to stay here as long as you like. When you're ready to conclude, come onto your hands and knees. If you're sitting in a chair, you can just bend forward over the legs. You're welcome to stay seated as long as you like. Then, when you're ready to finish, come onto your hands and knees. As you exhale, move back. As you inhale, move forward. If you're seated in a chair, just want to bend forward over your legs, that's fine. We'll just do a little bit of chanting to conclude. Kagina vacha manasendriyaiva buddhyatmana va prakriti subhavat karodmi yadyat sakadam padesmai narayanageti samarpayami sarvam Shri Krishnarbanamastu. Okay. Thanks everybody. Happy New Year. So good to see you. Please please hope to see you again. If you have questions about our offerings and whatnot, please email meg@yogawell.com or thewell@yogawell.com, and we'll see you again in the future. All right. Yeah, all the best.